My name is Daniel Chanowira, an architect practicing in Kampala. In 2015, Uganda hosted Pope Francis, the Pope of the Catholic Church. And in 2013, we began to redevelop the Uganda Matters Shrine, the Catholic Matters Shrine. It was a redevelopment project handled by the Catholic Church and the government of Uganda. My boss, architect Matoya, architect Ian Senkatuka, and architect Stephen Ochola handled the bidding process. And then myself and a colleague of mine called Martin Bongomin and another colleague called Oyo Cathbert, we were the boots on ground. So the firm is called Creations Consult Africa Limited, also in Kampala, Nakasero Hill Road. The client was the Catholic Church, and the legal entity was called the Registered Trustees of Kampala Archdiocese. So it was led by the Archbishop and many of the other bishops, as well as the Shrine Rector, Father Vincent, who is at Namugongo. And the government as well. So we had quite a number of meetings with the Prime Minister's Office, Ministry of Works, Ministry of Tourism, and those were the entities responsible for the project. The project was really to redevelop the UNESCO World Heritage Site, which is located in Namugongo. The whole estate, it's about 34 acres. In 1886, Kabaka Mwanga, the king of Buganda, ordered the execution of martyrs. Some of the martyrs were killed right at Munyonyo, others were killed somewhere Uwino Market currently is, and the rest were killed at this place. It was quite far at the time, maybe 30-40 kilometer walk from Munyonyo. And so the guys were killed and burnt. They were burnt at this place. What happened then was, after they were killed, where the existing basilica is, the guy who was in charge of execution was called Mukajanga. So after Mukajanga and his people killed them where the basilica is, they went down to what was a swamp at the time and washed their blades and their spears in that water. So people who are in the Catholic faith believe that this water is holy water because it has the blood of these saints. The head of the martyrs at the time was called Bali Kudembe, and he was killed right where the existing basilica is, and I think buried there as well. So that spot where he was killed is where the current altar is.
Mm-hmm. Now in 1964, when there is a whole process of making you a martyr, which is called beatification. That happened in 1964. And that's when this church was first built. Originally, it was built by Idi Amin when Pope John Paul I was coming to Uganda to make his pilgrimage to where these guys were killed, were executed. Yes. And so that's when that basilica was built. Originally, it was just a shed, just a roof and a floor.
Yes, it was in the 1960s. It was built by Rocco at the time. So when it came to choice for choosing a contractor for this project in today's time, they looked for the same construction contractor, basically. So you'd find that from the fathers to the sons, the project had been shifted.
And what happens now is that every year on the 3rd of June, which is the commemoration of their execution, there is a whole pilgrimage that takes place in this place. People walk from as far as Tanzania, from as far as Ethiopia. People walk all here to come and perform their pilgrimage. So what happens is you can have up to 1 million people on this ground. This ground is 34 acres. So the project, because of having all those people, and Pope Francis was coming in 2015, the Catholic Church, together with the government, decided that we need to redevelop it and make it habitable for the 1 million people. Deal with issues of crowd control, washrooms, a place where people can camp. We wanted to add a new parish church so that we could leave the basilica for special events. We had to add parking for some very special guests. We had to clean up the lake, change the altar. There was a lot of work that went in. In terms of budget, if anyone is thinking, it was about $16 million in total. And that was for phase one. There are still many other phases to do, as you'll see. So what we did, we took the whole 34 acres and figured out and tried to figure out what to do. And there were a number of things that had to be done. One was to renovate the existing basilica. Some parts of it were a bit old, some parts needed to be changed. So we did that. We changed the dome on top, which was metallic at the time, and now we made it glass so that it allows light in. We also added some ventilation up there so that, as a people, to create stack effect for ventilation. We added, we are yet to build a new parish church, which is in this corner, which when built will reduce the pressure on the existing basilica. The idea is to have a 1,000-seater church here. And then next to the church will be the convent for the nuns, because right now we only have a presbytery for the priests. So we need a convent for the nuns as well. And then, there are those washrooms near it. And then next to the convent is the ladies' dormitory. And we thought that, of course, the ladies' dormitory should be near to the convent and also near to the church. And then, because ladies are, our mothers, our sisters, we thought they should also be near to the security command center so that they are well protected. The police station is also right there, so in case anyone tries to disturb our mothers here, the security is right there to handle them. And then we thought it's also important to create an area where people can also, buy a few things here and there without having to walk out and wait through people. We decided to create this open area where we can have some people selling a few small things to make for the convenience of the people inside here. And then that's the camping ground right there. So this is the lowest, around here is the lowest part of the site. And this is where there was a lagoon originally, but then we moved all of this down to the other new site, like I said. And then up there is another set of washrooms for the people who are using Gate 7 and who are in this general area. And up here is where we have the men's dormitory, near Gate 8. The men ideally should be able to take care of themselves, so we did need to add much more security detail around there. And then the presbytery, like I said, is here. And we had, like I said, we had to add washrooms in as many locations as possible to reduce the walking distance for each person. For the altar, there was an existing altar that was in the lake, which had been built sometime, I think, in 1993, preceding Pope John Paul II's visit. But then that altar had become a bit old and it was short, so people could not see the main celebrant. So what we decided to do was to move the altar to the back and then raise it up so that everybody around could see the main celebrant. So the idea is that out of the basilica and the presbytery, you can all walk like that and come to this main walkway, which leads you all the way straight to the promenade and then to the bridge. This is the bridge, like I said, which is 84.6 meters long, which leads you to the main altar. And so that's the altar, and it also has enough access all around it, because on that day you can have 100+ priests all being part of the celebrants of the Mass. And then we created these extra bridges. If let's say a VIP wants to come from this pavilion to come and receive Holy Communion, it's easy for him to walk. He doesn't have to walk all the way around like that. Same to that and that. It came out in a way that now when you look at it in plan, it looks like a cross. And so many people think that that we did this intentionally, but it came as it was really for accessibility.
One thing that definitely you can't avoid because of the time in which the work was executed, it was very short. Of course, it was bound to leave some areas that require more maintenance because of the speed at which it was done, and there's a bit of oversight. And also one of the things we had, like for example, when we were designing this, as you will see in the drawings, when we were coming up with the altar, we had several designs for the altar. We had researched we researched at the Pope's visits in different countries, like in South America, especially like Brazil, and looking at the processions, for Spain. Looking at all the processions and how the Pope was addressing the crowd, this was the ideal platform as you see here. So you'd have to have, of course, where he seated at the top, and on the side on the side, of course, you would have his support. Then the other fathers, priests, or the altar boys, and then of course you'd have the altar. So you'd find that the pulpit is the front, and that's where they take the readings from, and that's where they would of course carry out all the sacraments and the blessings that happen at the front. We had several designs for this. There was one supposed to be out of steel and timber decking that was slightly higher than this, but we opted for concrete because of time, and that's why it appears like this.
We created a bridge over the lake because on 3rd of June there's a very long procession when the priests come from either the presbytery or from the existing basilica.
It's about 100-meter walk. So you can have a long procession of maybe 100 or 200 plus priests. And what we did was to create this red, sort of a red carpet, but also we wanted them to look like they are walking on the lake. Part of our inspiration came from when Jesus walked on water and Peter, So we wanted to create that kind of walk, but also we made it long so that when you're up here, you see the way we designed this red thing is so that it makes it look not so long when you're on this side, but when you're on the other side, it makes it look long. So we try to play around with perspective on this. Yeah, and then the lights, the railing, you can see we tried to, this one was something, actually it was Oyo Cuthbert, architect, who came up with that. And then, we added it in the design to give that illusion of an angel sort of worshiping.
Singing praise as the procession walks down the aisle.
Because we didn't want to overly intrude on the landscape, we decided to just create terraces so that the people could sit in those terraces. And the terraces are, of course, inclined so that you can sit and everyone can see the main celebrant. So we created almost looking like a stadium, but of grass, because we wanted to keep the landscape.
If you look at the drawings, the steps are not all equal. Yes. Because you had to accommodate some trees, and then some, because there were some which are smaller, which are, after there were smaller trees we had to cut, and that's because we were trying to accommodate as many people within the space, but the trees affected the cutting.
Part of the instructions from the client were that no tree must be cut, because every tree at Namugongo has a name and it is treated as a person as well. So our design had to fit within the existing landscape. We were only allowed to cut very few trees which were, the ones which we could not save at all. But we tried our best to keep every single tree on the ground. And then on the lower side near the altar, we created pavilions. We created 3 pavilions, Pavilion A, B, and C. And the instructions from the church were that their invited guests will sit in Pavilion A, and then the priests and brothers and nuns will sit in Pavilion B, and then the choir and some of the junior clergy can sit in Pavilion C. So each of those pavilions is covered with a copper roof, which is also carved. We carved it in that manner to try and mimic the landscape. We didn't want to have a nice undulating landscape, and then out of the blue you have this straight thing, and that's why we decided to carve them in that manner.
We had a company, a local company. I remember the boss was Lalani, and the guy on ground was called Krupesh Patel. So Krupesh are the ones who did the steel element, and they had to carve these specifically for this project. For the roofing, we had to get a team from China, and the roof has 3 layers. We used it was a zinc alloy. The zinc alloy is the bottom sheet. Then there's an insulation layer in between, and then on top is a copper.
The church itself also is made of copper. The whole roof is out of copper, and it's one of the most expensive materials. And when we go to the church in a bit, we'll look at that because we wanted to remove the panels and reassemble at one point, but we just said no, let's just brush them from there and repolish them to get back the original color, and then treat it, paint it black.
We also created a trail, and we put a grotto for each of the 22 martyrs. So we have a very long walk. It's about maybe half a kilometer or so. So if pilgrims want to, to go through that meditation process, they have a very long walk, and they can go stop at each grotto, say their prayer, move to the next, like that.
A grotto is a sculpture, like it's a sculpture representing, it's a prayer point. It's a similar space where someone comes to express their feelings to God, talk to God, pray for best wishes in their life, or whatever it is they want to pray for. But these are points for one to come and seek Holy Communion.
Obviously, it's not possible to fit 1 million people in 34 acres. So what we did was to try and accommodate as many people as possible. This place can accommodate up to maybe 200,000 people. And then what we did, obviously those 200,000 people may not all see the main celebrant. So we created big screens. These screens are they're about 24 meters wide and 12 meters tall. They are yet to be built, but when they are built, these screens are going to be able to be seen from as far as maybe 500 meters or so. In that way, everybody that's within the surroundings, whether they are inside here or not, will all be able to take part in the celebration. These ones who are sitting in these areas, like I said, can watch on these screens. So we have screen 1 here, screen 2 is there, screen 3 is there, and screen 4 is there. We also created a holy water fountain. What people do, one of the reasons that many pilgrims come to this place is they want to come and get holy water from this lake. But then it was becoming a safety hazard because people are trying to get water, and there are many, they are pushing against each other, so people can easily fall into the lake. So what we did was we barricaded off the lake, we put rails, and then also created a buffer of plants which is about 2 meters wide. And then we instead channeled the water to a fountain which is somewhere else, so that you can come and still get your holy water, but without having to go through the risk of falling in the water. We also created camping grounds for anyone that needed to come here. The pilgrims don't come only on 3rd June, people come throughout the year. So eventually when the dormitories are built, people can be able to sleep there. But there's also a camping ground for those who may not be able to manage the dormitory, or if the numbers are too many, they can utilize that place. In order to make the place also sort of viable in itself, we, underneath some of the pavilions, we created some rooms which people can utilize for, they're like conference rooms, so people can have their events there, trainings, small functions, and it can generate some income to help maintain this area. The large gardens, of course, can also be utilized for functions, and our thinking at the time was that hopefully if people can pay some money to use this place, that's the money that can be used to maintain and sustain this place.